Okay, guys, we're going to start a new culture on this channel, or routine, kind of both, of doing a Q&A every Monday. So every question or comment on this YouTube channel, I'm going to go through and answer or rebut, if you will, so that we can make sure we're helping you implement the topics or concepts that we're talking about in these videos. This does a few things for me selfishly. Number one is it helps me incentivize you guys commenting on the videos, which will incentivize the algorithm on YouTube to push this in front of other people, because when videos get engagement, YouTube likes that. YouTube will show it to other people. Number two is it takes a day off recording from me. So the video I recorded Friday can now go live Tuesday. I'm starting to hedge my week. If we're doing daily videos, this helps me get ahead of the curve. It also gives you guys the ability to get action or value from topics on how to action those topics inside of your business. So we're going to dive right into it. Today's going to be a shorter one because we don't have a lot of comments to go through because we haven't done this before. And hopefully next Monday, we'll do these every Monday. Next Monday gets a little longer. Starting with 11 days ago, the other ones were just well-structured argument, good content, missed you. Honestly, a lot of things about you scream scam. Hey, David, honestly, bro, totally understand. No qualms. What I would say to this is that if I was going to scam people, number one, I probably wouldn't be a Christian scamming people. If I did, I'd be setting myself up for a very bad judgment day. But number two is if I was going to scam people, I probably wouldn't do it in the B2B market. I think the B2B market is probably the hardest market to scam people in compared to B2C. And you wouldn't see me working with people on how to better their businesses. You'd probably see me selling Forex trading or something. Anyone boasting about how much they know about business is scamming you, especially if they're charging you for the knowledge. Interesting thoughts. Most of them had parents or friends who gave them a big fat loan. Way more interesting thought, and they got lucky starting a business in a niche market, or they had the capital to take a huge loss or to steal customers from their competition by undercutting them. This person, I don't know anything about, but I can almost guarantee you that they are not doing well. And I don't say that in bad intent. It's just this mindset's really broken about the fact that, number one, most knowledge that is going to help you make money always comes at some kind of paywall. At the end of the day, we can, there's a massive movement, mostly led by Hormozi, that knowledge should be free. And that's becoming more of a trend. But at the same time, realistically, people who know how to make money tend to charge others if they want to learn those skill sets, because it's such an ROI thing to know, So realistically, I think I give you guys a lot of value and knowledge here for free. And if you guys want my help implementing that knowledge into your business and looking at your specific business, taking time out of my day to work with you, that's what I charge for. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I can guarantee you I did not have friends or parents that gave me a big loan. The opposite. If anything, I love my mom and my dad, but they would not be what most people would call well off. They were extremely lower middle class. I had a very average normal background. But my parents loved me tremendously. And at the end of the day, that is far beyond anything that I could ever ask for, loving parents. Not everyone who teaches business is a scammer. Some of us usually spend years learning, testing, failing, and figuring shit out the hard way. Sorry for the language, sharing that knowledge, especially if it actually helps people avoid these scams, system mistakes isn't evil money grab. Your mindset, yeah, there we go. Same person calling out the mindset. The mindset here is super broken. I have spent almost a decade specifically in business, learning, testing, and I like to say that I have failed more than most people will ever attempt. I failed a lot. I still fail to this day. You mean the fact that he claims to have worked with Iman Gadzhi and Tai Lopez? I can't comment on whether or not I've never worked for Tai Lopez, so I can't comment on my relationship with him because there might be a contract in place. If I ever did have any kind of relationship with them, I can tell you I've had a lot of mentors. And then Iman Gadzhi, of course, I was the COO and CEO for Iman. That's pretty public. If you even go to, aside from my main Instagram, if you go to the six-figure sales rep you can go to Digital Launchpad's or Educate's Instagram accounts. You can go to you can just look at Digital Launchpad and see who's his sales, trainer inside of there, or coach, whatever it'd be called. He also claimed to have worked with so many other 8-figure people, but the Instagram account he showed only had 330 followers. And at the time I left the comment, he had more than twice the amount of subscribers that the channel had views. David, this is funny. I never read negative comments, and so I never actually even saw this chain. But I have a couple different accounts. So Daily Business obviously is my new business account. And then if you go to my main channel, Paul Daly on Instagram, Paul J Daly on YouTube, you'll find more views and followers and such there, more connects with people who are these 8-figure gents who you might be talking about. A lot of the time when people go to my Instagram page, they'll just see that I'm followed by people that they respect in the space. So it might be worth trying to work with him on. He's knowledgeable. Appreciate you for saying that. Thank you for blah, blah, blah. Makes a lot of sense. Probably a lot of business, but okay. Makes a lot of sense. There's probably a lot of businesses. People get burned with agencies and coaches promising the sky and delivering nothing. And they all spoke the same way, offered the same stuff. If you would start a marketing agency right now without a large budget or authority social proof, what would you do? Let's see what someone says and I'll give my response. Offer for free until your service is good enough to sell and show the proof that it is working. Is more work, but the outcome is almost guaranteed. You'll spend less time listening to this BS and trying to charge in the market yet. I guess listening to this BS is my stuff and trying to charge in the market. You've had no experience. The whole point of the book, and this man is just talking about what businesses are doing wrong without giving a solution. The book obviously doesn't mean to offer the whole world, especially if you know that you can't deliver. So side note, the $100 million offers book is a great book, but to answer this question and then to answer this comment. If I was starting an agency, didn't have the experience I have, if I didn't have a large budget, if I didn't have authority or social proof, what would I do? Guys, a lot of people are saying this like I didn't do this already. And all I did was, and for clarity, I got my agency up to $100,000 a month. I got it up to $30,000 a month in 30 days, and I did it specifically with outbound messaging. And so I would do the exact same thing again. I would find some kind of niche that has proof of concept already, which is pretty much any macro niche. You could do this with chiropractic, with real estate, with med spa, with HVAC, roofing, anything under the sun. You can start an agency, and I would pick some kind of service. For me, I picked Facebook ads, and then we had an ISA in the back. And I just did outbound messaging. So I would use Facebook and Instagram. I don't think you can do the volume now without getting action blocked, but I would do 40 in the morning, 40 in the morning on each platform, 40 in the evening on each platform. And I did a little bit of LinkedIn, but I got out of LinkedIn pretty quick. I'm not a huge LinkedIn fan personally, but you can succeed with LinkedIn. It's just that I don't. You can succeed, side note, with any model, any medium, any kind of offer. Realistically, everything has strengths and weaknesses, and everyone will play better to different things. So I was not active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn did not do well for me. I've been more active in the past on Instagram, so Instagram did well for me. Same with Facebook. All to say, I sent 40 Facebook friend requests a day, and then first message contacts a day in the morning on Facebook, and then 40 comments on people's posts in the morning on Instagram. And then I did the exact same thing in the evening. So I had 80 touch points on each, and then I would spend the day following up with said touch points. So if people respond to messages if people responded to comments, etc., I would work that throughout the day. And then I got 80 messages throughout the day. The camera on this is geeking out a little bit. I'm trying something beside Loom. So if this has camera issues, my apologies. But I've done that in the past. It's not hard to do that. Realistically, guys, to get to, Hermosi and I definitely agree on this point, to get to the point where you're doing, call it $100,000 a month, $50,000 a month, whatever your aspirations are. You don't need to have some kind of genius approach towards something. You just need to have an insane amount of volume. Even with a lot of my founders, what I say is like, realistically, I have a video on my, it's either on the business channel, this channel, or my main channel, talking about force equals mass times acceleration being the second law of Newton's thermodynamics. And if you think about trying to enter a market, you have force equals MA. I would call that force equals volume times argumentation. So like how well is your message, how well structured is your messaging? How clear is it? How concise is it? How many calories do people have to burn to think about what you try to do? How strong is your argumentation for what you do differently than the market and why it works better than everything else in the market? That's argumentation. Argumentation is a skill that takes a long time to develop. And every single time you create a new business, there's a development curve of learning how to message that, how to argue that new offer. Vice versa, volume is just straight up discipline. So there's discipline times skill. Realistically, just creating a massive amount of volume, a massive amount of voice in the market is almost never going to be a bad thing. Unless your argumentation is so bad that you're just creating random hecticness and noise, all you have to do is a lot. And so I'm doing the same thing now with daily YouTube videos for this new channel, as I did, 6 years ago, with daily 80 messages per platform, 160 in total, outbound messages and likes and such. And so if I was starting something, I would pick a proven concept like marketing for real estate agents or anything of like, right? And I would just start sending out tons of messages, and I would not do what this person says and offer. And this is actually something most people who make money will disagree with Hermosi's concept of working for free. And the reason for it is you just do not get very far working for free. It's not, how about this? When you work for free, the kind of people you attract are not people who want to give you a testimonial or benefit from your material or service. The kind of people you attract are people who want free things. And people who want free things tend to not be great clients to work with, tend to not be people who are going to get actual results with you. No one who makes money wants something for free. If anyone ever asks me if they can do something for free for me now, my instant answer is no, because I'm the one paying for that relationship. Hormozi has other content that actually contradicts this concept of if someone wants to work for him for free, what he does is he says, no, I'm the one paying for that relationship because I'm going to have opportunity cost or time to train you, whatever it is, right? No one wants to work, to have free work done for him. There's a line in a Jack Reacher movie, the one with Tom Cruise, which is that, he's talking to some girl who's trying to get him in a fight or something like that. And he says, I can't afford you. She's like, I'm not a WHORE. And he says, then I really can't afford you. In the same kind of way, when someone's, offering me free help or free services, I'm like, I can't afford you. I'd rather just pay $2,000 a month, $5,000, whatever it is. And so number one, you don't get good clients. Number two is realistically, I would much rather see someone offer, and I do think you should make your services less expensive, because if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be charging people high ticket for it. But realistically, let's say you're learning how to run Facebook ads for people. It's not a hard skill to learn. You're going to have to perfect it, etc. But charge $300 a month for plus ad spend or something. Just charge a little bit of money, and you're going to get people who are taking it way more seriously. They're putting skin in the game. You're going to take it more seriously. There's a lot of benefit just to charging low ticket and increasing ticket as you go throughout it. But charging nothing, going for free, I think that unless you're, working with you're cutting people's lawns or such and you're trying to get word of mouth, I just don't see this being a very viable service or model, nor do most people who do well. But it does, sound really, really good, which is why people don't, you almost sound like a dick when you tell people don't do things for free, which is what Hormozi has going for him in terms of this model that he offers people. But keep in mind, Hormozi has never done this and never did this to get where he is. So I would not recommend doing what he says. I'd recommend doing what he does. If you look at what he did, it's very different than what he preaches in the book. Okie dokie. And I have nothing against Hormozi, by the way. A lot of people that I'm, acquaintances of, friends of, etc., they would say that they have things against Hormozi. I don't know him. I don't want to have any kind of personal bias of him. But what I do not like is when people tell people to do things that they didn't do themselves to find success, which is a trend with some people in the market. I'll put it that way. As any way to download these docs, I should make a downloadable version on each. Maybe I'll start doing that this week. Confirms my conviction on doubling down on organic informative content. Was so overwhelmed and worried that I have to switch to paid in order to grow fast. Past 6 figures, needed to hear this 100% from personal experience. Getting all my clients from organic connections, crushing organic, informative people I look up to. Kino Body, same. A lot of these guys to just follow what you said in your video. Okay, cool. So this sounds just like alignment. I appreciate it. Guys, realistically, I can't stress this enough. Agency coaching, doesn't matter what it is. If you just create content every single day that informs your ICP on how to better their businesses, especially in the specific kind of niche of service or expertise that you're in, it's hard not to eventually grow a brand that feeds you. So to get into this a little further, possibly, paid is just gasoline. Realistically, if you throw paid on a business that doesn't have the proper mechanisms, then here's another thing too. Paid at the end of the day is a steroid or it's gasoline, which means if you have good fuel, meaning if you're creating a fire and you throw gasoline on a fire and you have a lot of wood, you can keep adding wood to it. You have a lot of oxygen to feed the fire, etc. Paid's great. But most people will throw paid onto their fire. They'll throw gasoline onto a fire. They don't have a lot of wood, meaning audience or attention or product quality or anything to feed the fire. So there's less wood, there's less oxygen. The fire burns really quickly, and then the company dies 2 years later, just like a company or just like a fire would phase out if it didn't have enough fuel to keep it going. And so paid is a steroid. You want to have all the foundations and set before you start running it. I still don't run paid because I don't think my messaging is good enough for paid yet. And I don't think my onboarding for D7, I don't ever really think I'll need to run paid for D7, to be honest with you. But I don't run paid because I don't think I'm at the point where I would benefit from it without suffering long-term losses. And so realistically, the people who run paid tend to be people there's two types of people who run paid. broke business owners or business owners who have massive operations, profit way less than they could, and they're way more hectically living than I would ever like to live. Paid is a great vehicle. Very few people actually know how to use it properly. If you really think about it, the majority of brands that are running paid are, effectively are brands, and they're normally running retargeting paid, not cold. There's a lot to say to this that we can get into. If you guys have more questions, then comment them down below. Link doesn't work on IG. Yeah, I'm refiguring all of my Instagram links and bios and stuff. So Paul Daily, example given, I don't even think I have anything on that bio. And then pauldaily.business, I am switching that to be a sign up mailing chat flow. If you DM, I think it's going to be X, you can join a Telegram group I'm making, which I'm going to send a daily video to, just like a daily thought. I'm going to, it's going to allow you to get notified every time I create a new YouTube business video, whatever it is. Maybe every time I create a new blog post. It's just going to be essentially a notification form if you want to join that. It's going to be a Telegram. It's going to ask if you want to join that. It's going to ask if you want to join the newsletter, which goes out weekly. And then it's also going to ask if you want a 7-day training on how to create premium positioning in your market so that you can price more effectively. So anyway, I'm working on that. That should be done ideally before tomorrow's video goes live, because tomorrow's video tells you to go use that Infinity Chef Flow. As per usual, the first to watch these videos, the amount of value is good, but I feel like it's a backhanded compliment. Is it even better having the courage to go against any of the grains? Cool. Appreciate the love, bro. I think so much more valuable than the typical sales video you see on YouTube these days. I love how there's methodology. Jason's actually a client. If you want to find out what it's like to be in my incubator, message Jason. I love how there's a methodology and reasoning for the approach instead of just showing off. Appreciate you, bro, as always. I'd love to sign up for the newsletter. Again, check out pauldaily.business tomorrow. This doesn't prove them $100 million for books wrong. The whole point of it is not to make a superhero offer without delivering the service. The point is to put yourself in a position where you'll be able to receive feedback and make the product or service good enough to sell while you collect testimonials to build the trust of your service. This doesn't prove the $100 million. I'm not trying to prove the book wrong. What I'm trying to essentially say is that if you look at the book with your, as gospel, maybe I am trying to prove the book wrong. Realistically, I don't think that, I don't think I can continue to keep going against Hormozi's viewpoint, or I don't think I can hold this contrarian viewpoint without just owning the fact that I do think there's a lot of things in the book that are wrong. And what I can tell you is that I was the COO and CEO for what most people would say, or what most people would say is Hormozi's largest competitor in the info space, who is destroying Hormozi when it comes to, enterprise value and profit every single year. I learned directly from him, and we implemented things that were very different than $100 million offers. I can tell you that a lot of the things that Hormozi promises in that book, at the end of guys, you have to remember Hormozi's acquisition.com is, probably 90% coaching. And so like coaching offers, and the largest member or client of the portfolio is under, we'll say, like 3-letter agency scrutiny and investigation for whether or not they are, compliant, and, realistically, they're going to another person for more advice on how to get out of a hole that Hormozi might have built them in. The thing with Hormozi, guys, is he's incredibly talented, he's incredibly smart, but he's also just, at the end of the day, he's an info guy. He's a coach like everyone else. Just because people have more following or just because people have more following or social audience doesn't mean that they are deserving of the authority that sometimes gets given to them, right? So example given, I think that, what's his name? There's a guy who has he worked with the Paul brothers. He has a podcast. He's a Christian, and he has a lot more attention than his maturity in Christianity would warrant. But he has a lot of attention, so people look at him as a model Christian. I think his name is David something. I can't remember. My brain's a little fried, apparently. You guys would know who I'm talking to. George Jenko. There we go. George Jenko. A lot of audience. Not a very matured Christian in terms of biblical understanding and such, but he has a lot of following that come to him to learn about Christianity. He gets in a lot of scrutiny and into conversations that he might not necessarily be prepared for. In the same kind of, he's not someone you would call a theologian, nor am I. I'm not trying to say I am. But the reason I'm saying this is in the same regard, when someone in business has more attention given to them, people start to glorify them. I just think realistically, no matter what it is in business, you have to always make sure you take everything with a grain of salt. One thing Iman and I have always agreed on is every single person you can ever learn from, myself included, Iman, Hormozi, etc. You can always look at what they do well and what they don't do well. I think Hormozi, example given, is a world-class framer. I think he frames things incredibly well, whether it's what he's done in the past, how he sold his companies, etc. If you look into it, very well framed on the exit value he got and such. If you look at his portfolio company, which is really just an agency for coaches, very well positioned and framed. If you look at the ways he can take complex things and simplify them down, and he's a very good framer. There's also a lot of things he doesn't do well, and you just have to be willing to accept the fact that no one's perfect except for Christ. And because of that, you have to always take every single thing said with a grain of salt. Example given, Tai Lopez, who I know well, I'll put it that way. I've never worked for Tai Lopez. Like that comment down below. Where? I was trying to find it and highlight it again. The fact that he said he's worked for, Tai Lopez, I think is one of the world's best marketers to live in the last 20 years. I think he's incredibly intelligent. If you ever get to go to his farm and hang out with him for 12 hours, like I may or may not have based on this comment, then you would get to know that he is, if you've ever ridden a tractor with him for 5 hours cutting his farmland, you would know he's incredibly smart and he knows human psychology incredibly well. I don't think, though, that Tai Lopez is the best when it comes to product development. I think if you ever go through his products, everything feels clunky and old and such. And I think there's, definitely things you can take from even his content approach in today's market versus 6 years ago. I think there's things you can take for strengths and weaknesses. So everyone who watches my stuff, please know, I have a lot of flaws and a lot of weaknesses. Don't take those. If you just try to be one person, so a lot of people, I remember with Iman, obviously a lot of people are trying to be Iman. With Hormozi, a lot of people are doing this with their acquisition.com hats and such, and their school wife beaters. If you look at Tate, people are doing this with Tate, have been for a long time. It's that everyone tries to be a mini version of them or a subversion of them. But in reality, what you should do is you should take the strengths of everyone that's doing well, that let me rephrase. Anyone who's doing well has something they're good at, otherwise they wouldn't be doing well. The game is finding out what people do well and taking, cherry picking what you best like from those people. So example given, Hormozi, I think from a personal perspective, I would never want to have the kind of personal life that he has. I value relationships differently because I'm a Christian, right? I look at how I want to spend my time differently because, again, I'm a Christian. I don't want to idolize work. I want to idolize God. I want God to be my God. I don't want my work to be my God, right? And there are certain things I'm going to do differently. And so if I just tried to mimic him and be if I glorified him like a lot of people do, then I would just be a subversion of him. And so in the same kind of way, realistically, guys, the way that you progress as a business owner is by finding different mentors and picking things from each of them. That each of them do well and recognizing that a lot of them have flaws. The secondary to this is when you can learn from their flaws, you double the speed of growth that you have because you can do things better that they're not doing currently themselves. Everyone has a weakness. Don't pick up the weaknesses. If you glorify people and you start to look at them as the one size fits all solution, then you are going to pick up their weaknesses and you'll be subversions of someone who you can be better than in many different ways. Okie dokie. Where were we? Give me a second, guys. I'm sorry. Thanks for the value insights. Appreciate you. Gus is a client. If you guys want to ask Gus what it's like to be inside of the incubator, what if you're building an agency purely for cash flow instead of long-term play? Would cold outbound combined with ads still work? Guys, at the end of the day, realistically, here's the main thing to look at. If you want to build something for cash flow, if you want to build an economic business, just make sure your CAC to LTV ratio is 10 to 1. So whatever you're acquiring clients for, customers for, you have to make sure you value over the lifetime of the client 10 times more than that. So if your lifetime value is $6,000, you can acquire people for $600. And when you get into ads, it's just very common that most people don't get to actually have a 10 to 1 LTV. They start to have a 6 to 1 LTV or 5 to 1. And especially when you get an agency, more so than coaching, you have more fulfillment costs. And before in a coaching business, the majority of the cost that you're going to have is, and your margins for anyone short of $250,000 a month, your margin should be over 80% profit. And the majority of the margin is going to go toward CAC, acquiring clients. But in a service agency, you're going to have cost of fulfillment, you're going to have labor, et cetera. And so because of that, realistically, you gotta make sure even more than a coach that you're sticking to the 10 to 1 ratio on CAC to LTV. Otherwise, you're just going to have so much work for so little money. So cold outbound, on socials, on even email. I've seen people, I've never personally succeeded with email. I have a friend named Joel Kaplan. We talked about how we've never really seen people do too well with email. We've always done the social platform out, starts. Now Joel, of course, is a massive ad centric guy. What I would say here is realistically, I would start any kind of the premise of the anti-funnel. I'll probably start actually messaging even more, is that I didn't have on my first business, we didn't have a funnel like a landing page or a website until we got to $60,000 a month. And when we started to create the funnel, what we had at that point was our messaging. When you can sell via DMs and sales calls, then what you get really good at is the messaging of what you do. And most people create funnels that look good. Or maybe even not look good, but most people are trying to create funnels that look good. So you're seeing a lot of people switch to Webflow, or I forget the name of the other one that's becoming more popular right now. It'll come to me in a second. But most people are switching to these like higher quality landing pages, and they're creating pages that look good, but their messaging sucks on it, and they just don't convert well. I did the exact same thing like a year ago. For D7, I started we created this landing page that's beautiful, but we didn't really know what D7's messaging was supposed to be because we hadn't finally tuned it enough. And so realistically, the first part if I was telling anyone to grow, unless you have massive amounts of spend, you have had successful businesses in the past and such, just start with content and outbound, right? Outbound's easier for an agency. Realistically, if you're a coach, I would say content. So I would say agency, content, and outbound. Coach, content, probably still outbound, and just define your messaging. It takes a lot of volume of understanding like where people are losing clarity to get your messaging down. Once you get your messaging down, you can create funnels, you can create better lead magnets, etc. You can start to create better ads, and you have your mechanisms down to actually start to run the gasoline toward or the steroids for, right? But realistically, starting with ads is a really quick way to build a non-profitable business. What are you trying to make this? Are you trying to make this supposition that buying ads reduces customer perception for your products? Some companies, yes, some companies, no. It depends on what you're selling. So example given, if you're an agency running ads to help people run their Facebook ads, I think that's great. If I was running ads on how to not run ads for your business, of course I would reduce the perception of my offer. Building authority makes sense, but it seems like building a house, it takes time. I've heard that ads are quicker way up front. Yeah. So here's dude, anyone who knows anything about a really good line. So I was with Iman, forget where we were in the world, and someone sent a video of Cole Gordon, who's also a good acquaintance of mine, at his boardroom event. And Cole's on stage saying, I hear Iman Gaji's doing more than $1 million. They're breaking down the VSL that we did pretty well with, that I did not write or anything. So I was saying we as a team, but that was all Luis and Iman. And they're breaking down the VSL. And Cole's like, I heard they're doing more than $1 million a month. I don't know if I believe that, but I know if I had Iman's audience, I'd be doing $10 million a month. And number one was ironic because we were well past $1 million a month. But number two is Iman said a savage line, which is he doesn't have my audience because he thinks like that. The way to look at it is that people who run ads almost never do well with organic. People who do well with organic easily can get into ads after. And that's because organic is a much harder skill set to learn than ads. I mean, a much harder skill set to learn than ads. But also, realistically, if you run paid to a traffic you're trying to build organic with, you're going to kill the organic following of it. Anyone who has people even will say if they worked for YouTube, if you have a YouTube channel, do not run ads from that YouTube channel, create another YouTube channel and run ads with that extra YouTube channel or such. Never run ads from, you'll see, I don't have any shorts on Paul Daly. On my main pages, you'll never see short form content. So this business channel, you won't see shorts on Paul J. Daly on YouTube, the main channel. You won't see shorts. You won't see ads coming from these channels, etc., because they just destroy natural engagement and organic growth. This is why you have so many people who have, beside the fact that in the past maybe they bought followers, you'll have so many people who have massive audiences, 100,000 followers or 500,000 subscribers, whatever it is on YouTube, 20,000, 50,000 subscribers, but they get like 60 views or 80 views or whatever, be it a video or 120 likes. I care more about engagement than I do following. If I'm getting a lot of engagement, I'm in front of the right people, and my reach overall is more effective. When I post a story on my main account, since I've never ran ads or short form from it on Instagram, I get more story views and reach than most people do with 100,000 followers. And it's just because, realistically, that's my golden egg, and so why would I risk my golden egg by trying to speed in with ads the amount of time that it takes me to grow it. Guys, a large principle of this is like ads reduce the time window of growth, but almost always you're shortening the lifespan of the thing or the efficiency or effectiveness of the thing by running ads. I'm okay with the fact that it's just going to take me longer to grow if I can get 10 times more longevity out of the vehicle from not doing the thing that shortens it, which is ads, right? So for the long game, building presence is like obtaining property, which benefits you long term. Yeah, building attention takes a long time. If you're not in business for the long term growth, like if you're not, the problem is realistically, if you build something that is based on ads, you're not going to build attention well. For a couple of reasons. Number one, you're not going to focus on the skill set of organic attention because you're going to constantly make sure your ads are performing, and that takes a lot of bandwidth. People don't like to admit it, but if you're running ads, in today's market, you're going to constantly be having to come up with new creatives, new hooks, new funnel optimization, etc. But number two is realistically, the more people see on ads, Hormozy will talk about this. Realistically, when you sell, you are naturally taking away. And I know it's ironic that I'm using Hormozy here, but a lot of you guys seem or tend to, take his stuff as gospel. So I'm going to use it as an example. Hormozy says that if you sell hourly, you are taking away goodwill from the audience. Ads are pretty much just taking away goodwill. And so the more people see you consistently with ads, the harder it is to build goodwill content with them on organic. People, if you just become an ads guy, people just don't want to watch your organic content. Couldn't tell you why. It just happens. So realistically, I think that ads should be done again after you have the right infrastructure and mechanisms in place, not to try to build that faster. Right? It takes a lot of time to build the right infrastructure for a business. There's a reason in the like venture capitalist world, businesses that whether it's software or even non, they look for like a third year is when the business starts to grow and profit heavily, right? It takes time to build something that has the right infrastructure and mechanisms and messaging, that will stay around for a long time. And realistically, this kind of persona type or thinking type is why most businesses die within 2 years. Pretty much only in our space too. Realistically, the longevity of companies is, granted you can get into the statistics about businesses dying by year 1, 2, 3, et cetera. But our lifespan in our industry of coaching and agency, and I lump these together, even though I'm really trying to talk to coaches, is just shorter because most people are using ads as the only way to get clients, and ads is a really bad way to create a business. It's a great way to supplement a business, but it's not a good way to create a business. And most people are trying to use them to create a business. I do not recommend that. Can you accomplish this with short form as well, or is it exclusive to long form? That video was how ads are just starting. So here's the thing about shorts. This is kind of my persona or my thinking model on it. If you have a lot of long form content and then you start short form content to get in front of people, but the people have seen your long form content, and when they see your shorts, they think of your long form content. Shorts are great. But realistically, short form on its own is incredibly invaluable. You can't really sway people in 30 seconds or 20 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever it is, right? And so it's a great way to get in front of people. The algorithm for shorts is way more effective because you don't have to worry about, at least for beginners, because you don't have to worry about packaging, meaning thumbnails, titles, alignment, etc. But at the same time, if you are just giving people 40-second sound bites, then it's not going to change the belief structure or systems or belief architecture is what we say of the viewer. And so you're not really going to get anywhere with it. People need to see many, many, many hours of content before they ever really, continue to want to further engage with your sales process. It's hard to do that with shorts. It's pretty much impossible to do that with shorts. Maybe if you're selling something super low ticket, you can get away with it. But if you're selling anything of decent ticket size or ticket value, you're going to almost always have to use long form content if you're going to do this correctly for a long time. And if you want to do it with long form content, I would say focus on long form content, then get into shorts. So example given, what I found out last year, I started with shorts. That's how I hired my editing team. I started with short form content. After I started with short form content, we switched to long form content. Stopped with shorts for a long time. I just recognized shorts isn't really, I'm getting likes and views and stuff, but I'm not actually doing anything with it. Switched to long form content, got nothing for many, many months because it takes a while for the system to spin up, then started getting really good results anytime I tried. And then now I'm doing it again, focusing on long form, and then I'm going to bring back in shorts and finally for the first time in a long time, do both at the same time. So all to say, shorts are great, but it's kind of like ads. You need to send them to, we say create, convince, convert. Create attention, convince attention, convert attention. Long form content can create and convince. Short form content and ads can only create. And so if you're going to convince attention, which you should be doing to have a better sales process, you need to send them the long form content that can be on a website. It can be on LinkedIn. It can be on a blog. It can be on YouTube, whatever it is. But that long form content has to be there for shorts to be effective. What if they already have big organic and retargeting ads? Yeah, if you have, and the only thing is, if you're running retargeting ads, again, just make sure they're not from the master YouTube account. Never run ads from your main YouTube account. How ads are destroying business. And if you have a big organic following and you're running retargeting only, that's fine as long as you're keeping it from the golden egg. So realistically, if you're going to run retargeting ads, just make sure the ad account is not on your main YouTube account. Whew. Okay, guys, in 30 something minutes, I hope this was valuable. I would love to see more comments on the next video. We'll do this again on the 14th. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for it. Till next time, happy hunting.